Are you good? Is that okay?
Chris, I can hear you over here.
Yeah, done.
Yeah.
Thank you. Excellent. Well, I'm basically here to talk to you about what evidence really is. And Chris actually stole a lot of my talk just then by putting that slide up, because essentially that's where we're going to end up at the end. But we're going to get there in a slightly more roundabout way, because we talk about evidence all the time, we talk about research all the time, but we don't really know why. We don't really know why it's so important. And so essentially, most of my talk is going to be about the second half of that statement, which is why you should actually care. Not what it is, but why you should care about it. So, where I'm going to start is with a very simple example. And I've created this example in a series of very short stories around an imaginary person called Professor Plum. And that's largely because I spent most of my youth in caravan holidays in England where it was raining and we all played Cluedo all the time. So, which is one of the reasons why I now live in Italy. So basically what I have here is a claim. And the claim is Professor Plum ate biscuits. Now it's a very simple claim, and you might make it any day when you're in the staff room and somebody else is eating biscuits. And somebody else was standing there with you, or with Professor Plum, and they go, well, how do you know that? How do you know that he ate those biscuits? And the evidence is that he's got crumbs all down his sweater. I think that's pretty fair. That's open and shut case as far as I'm concerned. And this tells us what we need to know. Evidence is providing an answer to the question, how do you know? So how do you know that Professor Plum ate your biscuits? Well, he's got crumbs on his sweater. Right, okay. So far, so good. This is where it gets a bit more involved. Professor Plum ate the biscuits. How do you know? He's got crumbs on his sweater. Well, how do you know those crumbs came from our biscuits? How do you know that he didn't just come from another meeting where we have biscuits? Professors go to a lot of meetings, and they generally get a lot of biscuits. So, we know that they're our biscuits that he ate, because we only get biscuits with green icing on the top. And those crumbs have green icing. So we know it's Professor Plum. He is clearly the culprit, and we can condemn him for illicit biscuit eating. And this is where we end up. How good an answer you need for the question, how do you know, depends on the situation. If somebody's eating biscuits that they shouldn't be eating, if they've got crumbs on them, we say, stop eating those biscuits. If you've got bigger things at stake, you might need better evidence. So if we're talking about basically the biggest problems facing modern society, which is a lack of fitness and poor health, and personal trainers are probably positioned to deal with that problem better than anybody else. I think that slide that Chris showed us, with doctors being people that everybody goes to for advice about health, is awful. I think personal trainers are so much better positioned to do that. I think it's a horrendous state we're allowed ourselves to get into. So, what are better answers and what are worse answers? So, let's go on some more adventures with our fictitious character, Professor Plum. This is actually somewhere in Yorkshire. I think it's near the Three Peaks area. And Professor Plum likes going for walks, so this is a picture of somewhere nice that he might like to go for a walk. So, when Professor Plum goes for a walk, he takes a tennis ball with him. Don't worry, you'll get there when you disappear. And he finds a fence post, and he finds the same fence post every day, and he throws a tennis ball towards the fence post. Okay? So far, so good. And when he's throwing the ball, he goes over to it, and he measures how far he got from the fence post. Okay? So he throws it, and it's 20 centimetres away. So he's like, okay, I can throw a ball, and it lands within 20 centimetres of that fence post. Day one. Second day, he goes back again, and this time he gets within 9 centimetres. Right? Okay. So he goes back, and he tells his staff in his laboratory, my throwing accuracy has improved since yesterday. How do you know? Yesterday I threw a ball 20 centimetres away from the post, and today it's only 9 centimetres. I've got better. Well, is that really the case? How do we know? If you were a clever lab assistant, you might say to the professor, maybe that ball that you threw on each of those days was a random effect. Maybe it wasn't what you would have thrown normally. Maybe you should throw more times. So that's what he does. The next day he goes out and he throws 10 balls and takes the average of all of those. And now he measures it's 13.4. Hang on a minute. We measured 20 centimetres one day, 9 centimetres, I got better. And now suddenly I'm measuring 13.4. And then the following day, he does it again. And now the average is 15.1. So suddenly now he's going back to his lab assistants and going, my throwing accuracy's got worse. How did that happen? Why have we suddenly got worse? Well, yesterday I threw 10 balls, caught 13.4 centimetres, and now it's 15.1. It got worse. It's got further away. Why is this happening to us? His lab assistant again goes, you're not taking enough measurements, you're an idiot. So he goes again, and now I've got a really big pile of balls there. Okay? So there's 100 balls there now, 14.31 centimetres. He got his ruler out and he measured it every single time. He was there a long time. And he does it again the following day. Now suddenly, we've got there. We've got the same number of measurements. Got the same number, for a large number of measurements. So then, he's back again, and his lab assistant's getting really sick of him now. And he's like, where have you been in the lab all this time? We've been doing all this work. My throwing accuracy has not improved, it stayed the same. How do you know? I threw 100 balls, 14.31 centimetres, and the lab assistants get their stats packages out and go, yeah, that's significant. You're good. You're not really doing anything, but you're good. So, the question I have for you really is, why did Professor Plum provide such a bad answer to the question to start with? He wanted to know what his throwing accuracy was like. He threw a tennis ball. He thought his accuracy was getting better because it looked like it had improved. But what had actually happened was he was fooled by randomness. He thought that a random throw on one day or the next was representative of what he would throw all the time. And it's not, because random stuff happens. I say stuff happens because I'm on video. And basically what we have is a situation where we can fall into the trap of thinking that one throw represents every throw. And it doesn't. It's just one throw on a distribution. And what we say in scientific language is any event has a signal and some noise. We can represent this graphically. The signal is the bar down the middle, and the noise is at the sides. Basically, that's your big heap of tennis balls. That's what a big heap of tennis balls would look like if they all stuck when they landed. Because you'd have most of them in the middle of the measurement you were taking, and the rest of them would fall to the sides. And the problem is, until you measure, take all your measurements, the noise is invisible. You don't know what you don't know. I think Donald Rumsfeld said that once.